Okay, Junglekeeper. This is a book I want to talk about here on the channel today. This is one that I read earlier this year. I think it actually came out earlier this year. It's called Junglekeeper, What It Takes to Change the World by Paul Rosolie. I first heard of Paul through his original book, Mother of God, and that's what kind of got me onto Paul's story. So Paul himself is a kid, a man from New York, right? He grew up in Brooklyn, always had a passion for nature, obviously in that area. While of course there are forests and things that you can find, it's not exactly the mecca of rainforests. And so, he talks about this in the Mother of God and kind of how he grows up, but ultimately he finds himself out in the Amazon and develops a deep passion for not only the people that he meets out there, but the rainforest, the wildlife, everything. It's that kind of classic story you hear of someone who grows up in the city, has a bit of a love for nature, and then ends up finding out that their true passion is just being out in the outdoors. I think there's a lot of people that find themselves that way, and so. Mother of God was his first book. This one is called Junglekeeper because he's the founder of Junglekeepers, which I don't know if that's a nonprofit or his company. It says he's the founder of Junglekeepers, an organization that focuses on protecting threatened habitats in Western Amazonia. So ultimately, that's what the story of this book is about his organization, Junglekeepers, and what they are doing to try to protect the Amazon. So this one is for me was a lot different than the first one. I thought the first one was like a true nature book. It was cool stories. I mean, he was wrestling huge anacondas, some of them that were setting world records in terms of length, and befriends an anteater in that first one. It was just a really cool nature book. You just kind of fall in love with the story. Junglekeeper was different in that this one was more of the business side of running an organization and what it takes to try to preserve parts of the world that are under attack. And so what I mean by that is that, civilizations, we're trying to, humans, we try to build everywhere that we can and take resources from everywhere that we can get it. So whether it's just in getting the lumber and the wood, or getting things, minerals out of the soil, or building, just straight up bringing civilization to parts of the Amazon that once weren't there, roads, stores, all of it, right? Building society, trying to grow. There's Paul is trying to preserve parts of the Amazon, and I don't know. These books are always interesting to me because they bring up good thoughts and good things to think about. I don't 100% know. I guess I'm kind of in the middle on humanity, right? Like I do believe that we should expand and grow and continue to evolve and uplift people. And along with that does come some pain in developing parts of the world, right? I mean, where anyone who's watching this, if you're in the United States, you're likely in an area that was once just a natural area and is now developed up. And there's beauty in that. I myself live on a huge green belt, and I love that, but it does mean that part of the environment was damaged at one point to build this home many, many years ago. And so I don't know, I find myself kind of in the middle of that. And, there are people like Paul where he's made it his life's work, and what he talks about in Junglekeepers is what he's doing to do that. And so his organization has now acquired more than 110,000 acres of the Amazon to try to protect it, and to try to protect it from everything, whether that's chainsaws, poachers, anything you could think of. They're trying to acquire everything they can to try to protect the Amazon jungle. And he just goes into detail about this. This book is just, like I was mentioning earlier, it's more of the business side of things. And, interestingly enough, this is another thing that I thought a lot about while reading this book is that in order to deliver on his mission, in order to do what he needs to do, it's like he has to become a capitalist. And not even necessarily become one, but he has to do what any business in Silicon Valley would do. the business itself of trying to protect the Amazon, of trying to protect the environment, is not exactly a big money kind of a business. You know, there's not a lot of money in doing stuff like this. And so in order to complete your mission, in order to push things forward, you have to acquire outside money. And that could be through donations. It could be through finding investors. It could be just through meeting rich people who have so much money that they want to donate to a willing cause, which, by the way, that happens in this book. But it's like anything, right? If you have a great idea and you're trying to start a business, you have to go out and acquire money. You have to acquire investors to give them to invest in your business, to be able to have enough rope to continue to prove that the idea is working, and hopefully eventually one day it becomes profitable. You know, that's a lot of what this book talks about, is like that journey and what they had to do, and how they're doing it. The other thing I think a lot about in these books is that it's at the intersection of the kind of the beauty of humanity and the worst parts of humanity. And so what I mean by that is that the parts of the Amazon, I mean, I've read some really cool books of parts of the Amazon, is that they're still some of the most remote places in the world. I mean, they're so diverse in terms of the wildlife and the plants and all that stuff that are out there. And he talks about, I mean, there's so much beauty in the people that live there that are super remote areas, and the way they live their lives, right? I mean, they're people that are at one with nature. They're at balance with nature. They take what they get. They don't take more. It's just like any predators, in you know, large predators never overhunt or overeat because they know they need to strike a balance, or else they won't have any more things to eat. There are people like that as well, and I think about that when reading these books. But at the other side of it, the flip side of it, is that you see the worst parts of humanity: the poaching, the people that burn down parts of the forest, the people that are trying to build with total reckless abandon. And you know, interestingly enough, a lot of times it's the people that are there already. You know, I think when we think about a lot of this stuff, we tend to think of it as like Western civilization is trying to build in the Amazon, and it's really not often stuff like that. It's people that are already there in the area that are trying to find ways to make a buck. And so you see drug runners, drug traffickers are a big problem there. I mean, it's dangerous, the business that they're in. They get shot at. There are death threats on them. Their lives are at stake every day trying to protect the Amazon rainforest. And so you just kind of see both the best and worst in humanity. And he talks about that story and what it takes to try to protect places like the Amazon. And so it gives you cool things to think about. I think books like this are important to remind ourselves that this is a good conversation to be having. How far is too far? What should be done to protect places like this? I mean, are there parts of the world that we should never develop? I mean, just all those things I think are good, healthy conversations. At the same time, people like Paul inspire young kids to go out and find themselves with nature. And I found that to be more in Mother of God than this book. This book for me was not as good as his first book. It just wasn't. This book was a lot more business. It felt like he needed to sell the mission, and that's okay. But Mother of God was just a better story. It just really was more inspirational. And so that's the review that I had for Junglekeeper by Paul Rosolie. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.